I'm Kari Grady Grossman. We're in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I'm the Executive Director of Sustainable Schools International. And we support schools in Cambodia. Important distinction is we don't build schools. This organization came from my own personal experience with having built a school in Cambodia through another organizations, and many of them have been built, hundreds and hundreds, but most of them are standing empty for lack of teachers. So our mission is focused on this problem of actually helping rural communities support their schools so that the teachers can afford to teach, that the students can afford to be in the building, and that the community has a say in what is taught at the school so that it actually brings back to their community what they need to be able to develop and grow economically. 9 years ago, my husband and I adopted our first child from Cambodia. And if you know anything about the tragic history of Cambodia with the genocide they experienced in the 1970s, when we got there to pick him up, and we saw for ourselves that this ongoing trauma in the country is still, even though the genocide happened in the 70s, it was still going on, and that our son was actually a war orphan, even in 2001, from a conflict that happened in the 70s and 80s. And like many adoptive parents, we wanted to give back, and give back in a way that we felt would actually progress. We wanted to do something rather than just support an orphanage or something that is commonly done. We wanted to do something that we felt would actually work at the root of the problem. We found an organization that was buildings. So the project was called Put a Roof Over Their Heads, and in the villages where they were trying to hold school, like under a tree or something like that. They needed a matching donor for each building, and it was like $15,000. So we raised the $15,000 and we donated it on our adoption trip, and we put our son's name on it, and we went home and we felt baby and felt good about it and everything. The first time I went back, the teachers had no pay, and they were sleeping on the cement floor in the school, and they didn't show up very often. And I said, why not? Well, they had to go home. See, they were trained enough to be teachers in an urban center, a provincial town, and then they were sent to a rural village to work where they had no pay, no housing, no food, no family, no rice field to cultivate, no social support at all. So they wouldn't stay, and they would leave, or they would go back to their homes to get food, and then maybe not come back for a week or two, a month, or whatever. And what would happen is we would see that kids would go maybe in first grade or second grade, but then they'd start dropping out, and they would, in hordes, they'd start dropping out. Like 80% would drop out before they even got to 5th grade, and that's because they were old enough to work, help their family survive, and a family could not afford to sacrifice a child's labor to go to an empty school. And it only had to be empty 1 or 2 times before they just gave up on education altogether. So anyway, for 5 or 6 years, I would just go to Cambodia, and I would buy scarves and things like this from there, and I would sell them during the Christmas season, and then after Christmas I would go there to do what I could to support the teachers. First we built them a teacher house, and then we started sending a food stipend every month, and doing what we could. And it was increasing all the time, and we went from 50 kids to 150 kids to 300 kids, and so just that much support was helping the teachers. I realized that what happens to this school and to this village if something happens to me, or if our economy goes to hell, which did happen a year later, and I can't fundraise. How is this community empowered to not need me? And that is what Sustainable Schools International was founded on. We kind of formulated this new program called Education, Leadership, Sustainability. And in the leadership part of it, which is a lot of community development, a lot of looking at the personal issues that people are dealing with, but I would say to them, they put their head down, and it can't change, and it won't change, and they all complain about Hun Sen, who's the prime minister, and everything's Hun Sen's fault, and it's true. Well, Hun Sen and his cronies are very corrupt, and they're all former Khmer Rouge themselves. But I said to them, don't worry about them. I was like, no, you can't change them. They have all the money, they have all the power, they have no reason to change. Why would they change? They don't care about you, and they don't care about your kids. Accept this. You can't change them, but you can change you. And you can change your thinking. And when you change your mind, then we can build, because the way you lead this school, this is a group of 12 community members, almost all of whom are illiterate, half are women. The way you lead this school is what these 500 kids, we have over 500 kids now, are going to learn about leadership. And when they grow up, then they're going to know the difference between the good guys and the bad guys. This kind of approach is, in the last year, starting to have really powerful effects. Like, 2 of our scholarship girls last May got abducted by sex traffickers in a rice field. And I mean, I was on the phone with the UN High Commission for Refugees in 20 minutes and blah, blah, blah. That school supporting committee of community leaders that we've been working with went to the village chief who had been a part of the network that had sold those kids, and they got those girls back in 4 days, which is unheard of. They're the people who have to do it. They're the ones who live there. It's their kids. So I see myself as a person who is a partner with them, and when I am talking to people in the United States or fundraising from people in the United States, Sustainable Schools has a big emphasis now on getting kids involved here so that they understand that it's about more than just our spare change. It's about more than just even money. When I talk to people, I talk about the relationship matters as much as the money. Because it's, yes, we need money to make these things happen, but really we need relationships. We need people to listen. Listen to the people you're trying to help. And then really try to understand it. Use your education and your resourcefulness to bring in the expertise or the training or whatever, raise the money, whatever, to make it manifest. But we can't fix it for them. We really can't. They have to fix it themselves. What I see with my kids, both of them, is that instead of, I don't have to do a lot of telling them to do service to others, because they just see it. I mean, we just live it. And I never knew that this would end up being sort of my mission in life. I mean, if anybody told me 9 years ago, I'd have been like, what? But it's just something, there was always a problem that I just couldn't live with in this situation. Like, this was just not okay with me, that 80% of the kids are dropping out in 3rd grade and migrating to the city and ending up in brothels and dumps and orphanages and whatever. If we want this world to change, we have to change it. Period. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. And whether you want to participate in what we're doing or something in your own community or something in a different country, whatever you're attached to, you know, it is time for us all to take action. And it doesn't have to be as big as what I've done with the school and 500 kids on the other side of the planet. If we all do our part, we can change the whole thing. And it won't change if we don't all do our part. You can't wait for governments to do it. You can't wait for somebody else to do it. And empower the people who, if you don't have the time but you have the money, you know, empower those people. Give what you can. Get involved. Because there's a lot of things that need to change. Just include the people in our business models and in the way we relate to each other. We're all going to benefit. We're all going to benefit. We don't have to have less for them to have more.